Hey there, welcome to 4 Minute Friday with me, Brian Conway from achievesuccess.co.uk. And this week I want to talk to you about personal branding and ask you the question, what value and how much effort do you put into your personal brand? You see, we all have a personal brand, and what made me think about this week, even though it is something I teach quite regularly in a lot of my training and coaching, but what made it come to fore this week was the fact on Radio 2 here in the UK, there's a DJ called Steve Wright who's very popular with people of a certain age. He was a very popular DJ in the 80s and 90s, and he has a section in the show that they call Factoids, where they bring out all this really interesting and unusual facts. And one of the facts they brought out this week was the fact that people make a judgment on other people when they meet them for the first time. So it's all about first impressions. And the same research now says that judgment is made within 1/10 of a second. We literally see somebody, subconsciously we make a decision on whether we like them or maybe even whether we trust them. Now, I find that hard to believe. I've always taught in serious selling and when I've done training around personal branding that we've got about 7 to 8 seconds to make that first impression. And I always thought that was short, but I can understand the principle that we do have a data bank of information that we dip into subconsciously and make a decision. And in fact, I will be honest with you, this week, or last week actually it was, I was in somebody's office and an individual walked past that I hadn't ever seen before, and I did look at them and think, I don't like them. that's me being very frank and candid with you, but I don't know why to this day. And I remember thinking, I don't even know why I dislike you, but I do, and it was just something about the body language and the look on their face or something like that. Obviously I associated with that with something in the past that joined two bits of information together that said that person, this background, don't like. And that's how it works. You know, the brain is an incredible device. So the point of this is not to scare you that much, but you should be aware of how you brand yourself. You know, your personal brand is that external, let's say, manifestation or representation of who you are as an individual. And there are things that we do that will give other people clues based on their criteria, not necessarily ours, but their criteria as to what kind of person you are. So you do need to be consciously aware of some of these things. So some of this will be around perhaps some of the attributes around your character. So it could be things like timekeeping. Are you a good timekeeper? If somebody's very OCD when it comes to timekeeping and you're late, and I mean, I'm not OCD, but I certainly do dislike people who are late for conference calls in particular, when I'm sat there for 5 minutes and nobody else has joined the call, and then they'll start dripping in and saying, oh, sorry, I was busy with something else. I really do dislike that. I find that very disrespectful for me in my time when I do make sure that I'm there on time. So it's things like that. So your timekeeping, your trustworthiness, do you say, do rather what you say you're going to do. So if you say, I'll ring you tomorrow with that information, do you ring? Or does it end up slipping to another day? Or, I'll send you that information, do you send the email, etc. So it's all these little things that do actually create, as I said, an outward manifestation of or some insight into what the personality of the individual actually is. And then based on that, people will make a judgment. It could be things like your grooming. It could be the first words you say, and particularly if you're in telesales of any sort, your telesales activity, those first words out of your mouth. And it doesn't be the words, it could be the intonation, the tone of what you say, how you say it can be just as important as the actual words themselves. Again, people will read into that something, and therefore you should be consciously thinking about how you do these things. Your dress sense, is your jacket crumpled because you've been driving around in it for the last week and couldn't bother to take it off and hang it up in the back of the car? Or are your shoes, the toes of them, are they all kind of scuffed, or the heels because you drive in them a lot and you haven't polished them for 2 weeks, etc. Again, little things, and you may think, oh, well, I'm not bothered about my shoes. Why should anybody else be? But other people are. And that's the point of this video. You need to think about what your personal brand is. What would you want to be known for? One of the exercises I do in serious selling is we actually get people to write down certain attributes about themselves. What would they like to be known for? Sometimes we'll talk about if you were at your funeral listening to a eulogy, for example, what would you want to hear? A bit morbid, I know, but just kind of giving it a kind of a sense of occasion. And people write down these certain words, and then we go around the room with a piece of paper with other people writing down sort of key phrases about each individual, and then they're given to the individual to compare. And people are quite shocked the fact that they'd like to be known for being jolly and trustworthy, and in fact the piece of paper says quite miserable and unreliable. Right? Well, that's because whatever they're doing, whatever actions they're taking, it's creating an outward manifestation of who they really are, and somebody else is using their criteria to judge what that means for them. So your personal brand is very, very important. Make sure you think about what you want to be known for, and do you constantly and consistently act in a certain way and dress and look a certain way that actually outwardly manifests those attributes and the way you think and what you'd like to be known for. That is what personal branding is all about. And in sales, I've always said it, you'll hear it in lots of other places we talk about sales, people buy from people they know, like and trust. And if people in a tenth of a second make a decision on whether they like you or trust you, you could really be on the back foot before you've even opened your mouth. So think about, what do you do, what activities do you take that actually projects who you want people to know you as. Okay, that's it for this week's 4-Minute Friday. I hope that gets you perhaps thinking a little bit about what you do in your behaviours and your personal brand, and gives you some value in helping you sell more and be more successful in sales or in business, or maybe even life. So with that said, I hope you have a great weekend, a great week selling next week. I'm Conway from achievesuccess.co.uk, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.